In this video, I'm explaining Rook's pawn. In this role play, there's a bishop from one side and a knight from the other side interacting with each other, and for one side, especially for the knight side, to help a pawn promote. Now, one of the advantages that bishops have is that the advantage that bishop has is a long distance protection. What do I mean by that? By the fact that even if he's from a long distance away, he can protect a certain square. In this case, if bishop were to move to c6, he will prevent the pawn from safely promoting at h1. So what should black do in this case? Some people may suggesting having a knight act as a screen for the king. And of course, in this great move, it checks the white and seemingly wastes a move for white. But let's say white would move nearer to the bishop, the knight. Well, black might see this as an advantage. He might move his pawn down. But if, in this case, the knight has not done anything, white's actually touching the knight in this case, and actually physically almost interacting with him, and actually in some ways actually very close to him. That proves to be very dangerous. Because if bishop were to move this position, sure, black can promote his pawn to a queen, but what happens if our white's bishop were to take the knight? If white's bishop takes the knight, the king is forced to move to another square. When he moves to another square, bishop can take the queen. Black may take the bishop, but this game ends in a draw. So what's black's advantage is now gone. Let's reverse our whole game. Let's go to the very beginning. So let's not set our knight as a smokescreen. What if actually instead our king moved to g1? What's the advantage of g1? Advantage of g1 is that it prevents the king from moving any closer to the pawn. Sure, the king can move up, but at least this pawn is free to move. Our knight is still free to move, and our knight is able in some ways to allow us to move around more freely. Let's say our bishop moves to c6 as expected, to prevent our pawn from safely promoting. Well, if he does that, we can move our knight to g2. In this position, we are able to prevent the king from moving any closer to the knight, help assist the bishop in taking the knight. The king's only move to try to remain relevant in this game is to move up to e2. Now if he moves up to e2, we can move our pawn right down to h2. Now at h2, the king might try to do something about it. He might try to move closer to the knight, around f3. But if he moves to f3, it blocks his own bishop. Therefore, he might not do that. He might actually move his bishop closer. Even though he moves the bishop closer, or whatever move he takes, our queen is now safe to promote, because this knight might be pinned, and if it were pinned with a king right behind us, it proves to be a more dangerous position. But in this case, we have a queen behind us, so that even if the bishop takes the knight, our queen takes the bishop, and I'm happy to say, happy checkmating. Because if you're in this position, you should be able to use your advantage to checkmate white. Now let's explain this position from white's to move. If white were to move, he can still cause his game to draw. How? Well, if he moves to c6, he checks black's king. If he checks black's king, black can try moving down to g1 to prevent this white king from moving over. But white can actually set up a trap in this position. Well, you might ask how so? By playing a move that seems to be like a blunder, by moving his pawn down to h1. By moving his pawn down to h1, black, out of intuition, may try taking this black bishop right here. Now, of course, if he takes it, then white can move over to f1. In this sort of position, black has no way of moving out, as his only two squares of escape, g1 and g2, are blocked by white's king. And of course, black's knight can try doing all these different kind of antics of trying to make the white king move. But in this position, as long as white remains on f1 or f2, this game can end in a draw. So what are some principles? This sort of trap does not always work. This trap only sorts of work when a king's or defending king in this position or white himself is near his bishop, being able to provide support and lock black king into a trap. Thus, if the white's king had been far away and too far away to support his bishop, our black king could have still taken the bishop and thus help this game end in a checkmate. But I'd like to show you one interesting position where if white's king was near his bishop, this game could end in a draw with a seemingly blunder that was actually a trap.